In the news this week, COVID vaccine passport for kids and classroom ventilation. The controversial discussion continues as medical expert raises questions.
Also another exclusive, Fremantle mayoral candidate Marija Vujcic revealed her policy to end homelessness in the port city. Plans revealed for a staged vaccination rollout to WA school children, plus Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith's medical comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Sarah Smith.
Good evening. The idea of COVID vaccination passports continue to float around as school children in Western Australia are set to get vaccinated. Questions have been raised by medical experts on jab passport for kids, vaccination timeframes and the prevention of spreading of the virus in schools. Reporter Malifa Thorne has this exclusive interview with AMAWA spokesperson Dr. Andrew Miller.
Dr. Miller, thanks for your time. Would children be required to have vaccine passports to go to school? What would be the reaction to this?
Well, at the moment, there are vaccination requirements for children to attend schools already, and it's likely that it will be added on to that people would have to provide some sort of verification, and probably the new government IT systems coming in to support adult vaccine passports would make that process easier than it currently is for parents. Whether it would be a requirement for children to be vaccinated against COVID, that will take some months.
Why have we approved vaccines for children, but not given a time to administer them before forcing these same children back to school?
It's an excellent question as to why we're rushing towards these current targets for opening things up without including younger age groups down to 12 who currently have an approved vaccine, and without pausing to wait and see the results of trials for younger children for vaccine as well, because it would be terrific to prevent infecting that entire group of the population, millions of people, if we can avoid doing so because of the low risk of very severe complications, including death, and the higher risk of hospitalisation and long-term COVID symptoms. So we're encouraging the government to slow down a bit and give the kids a chance to catch up to the adults.
Will schools have ventilation, HEPA filters and CO2 monitoring to prevent the spread?
It's very important that we talk about ventilating schools and giving kids clean air to breathe when they go back to school, as well as teachers and everyone else who's there. Although this is only part of society where we have to look at it, we do know that there's a lot of spread amongst children. They're all unvaccinated, and it's a very dangerous environment to be indoors breathing air that's basically dirty with other people's viruses. And parents have always known, teachers have always known that kids spread disease very rapidly. To be honest, it's probably something we should have fixed years ago, but we haven't. We need to fix it now.
Do you believe people will try and cheat the vaccine passport system?
Whatever system we set up for anything in human life, there will be people who try and cheat it. It doesn't matter what it is, and no doubt this will be the same. And you've got to hope that the technological advances will improve beyond what we have currently, so that it can become secure enough that we can trust in a system, because knowing someone's vaccination status is going to be very important. We're going to be seeing very exciting new vaccines coming on the market early next year, and there'll be a range of boosters and top-ups for different variants, and it's likely that, in fact, people will need to keep a track fairly closely of what their vaccination history is. Otherwise, we're all just going to forget what we've had. So I think that we'll be able to conquer this over time, but in the early stages, the ability for there to be scams are probably there, yes, and people will exploit them because that's what people do.
Dr. Miller, thanks for your time.
Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Homelessness is at the top of the agenda for a candidate vying to be Fremantle's mayor, with a strategy to help homeless people off the streets for good.
Marija Vujcic wants a one-stop shop that will not only provide people sleeping rough with a home, but also a better future. Nelson Liu's exclusive report.
Fighting to help Fremantle's homeless, a Fremantle mayoral candidate pushing to support them off the streets for good.
I think it's critical. I think it's where we need to go in the future.
Rough sleepers are scattered throughout Fremantle, but Marija Vujcic wants to improve their lives with an opportunity out of homelessness.
I think to some degree we have as a society failed, and I do think that we need to do the utmost that we can to ensure that we do help our most vulnerable.
Contesting the city's top job, she's made homelessness her top priority, announcing a strategy for a culturally sensitive safe engagement hub with support services, shelter, self-care and job readiness. Based on a youth hub model, it features living facilities, referrals to specific services and ongoing monitoring for each individual person, improving on what she believes was a scattergun approach.
The strategy that I will be looking at is a program that has already been proven and is very successful. You see, we have some of our people that live on the streets who are only 6 weeks away from a job. And then on the other spectrum, you have people with serious mental health issues, and they can't be treated the same.
With 54 rough sleepers and 119 classified as homeless, Marija believes it's too many living on Fremantle streets, but she says it can be managed.
And that often means being able to be gainfully employed or have other options.
It echoes the views of Fremantle's residents who believe it's urgent to bring life back to the port city.
Homelessness usually comes up as the number one. We need to help these people, and that in turn, as I said, will encourage people to come back into Fremantle.
And while Marija admits it's a hard ask to completely eliminate homelessness, it's time for a different approach.
I'm a doer. I also have an open mind. I think that we need to try new ideas.
Nelson Liu, WAMN News.
Education Minister Sue Ellery has announced a new two-stage vaccine rollout for school staff and children 12 and over. Designated after-school time slots will be available at community vaccination centres, and designated walk-in time slots for those 16 and above will be available at the Claremont and Joondalup vaccination hubs. Regional vaccination centres will also be included in the rollout, with towns including Esperance, Leonora and Carnarvon seizing the opportunity to get jabbed. Further sites will be added in October.
Parental consent will be required for students participating in this, as it is for the long-standing vaccination program in schools for a range of diseases, for example meningococcal, tetanus and whooping cough, among others. Non-government schools, you will have noted, some have begun their own arrangements, and I'm advised that Health is in discussion with them as well.
And in other news, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has accepted the resignation of Federal Industry Minister Christian Porter. His resignation comes after he cannot explain the source of the funds for his defamation case against the ABC earlier this year. The PM announced Mr Porter's resignation in a late press conference this afternoon and says Mr Porter has upheld the ministerial standards by resigning. It's understood that Christian Porter will continue to serve as the member for Peers on the backbench. A major drug bust has successfully disrupted an importation and distribution criminal network in Western Australia. WA police have carried out 3 operations targeting the distribution of illicit drugs such as methamphetamine and heroin. As a result, 19 people were arrested, 52 charges were laid, $7 million worth of cash, 3 kilograms of meth, 28 kilograms of heroin, 6 firearms and 3,000 rounds of ammunition were seized.
Perth's AFL Grand Final has officially sold out, with WA footy fans fighting for tickets to the once-in-a-lifetime event at Optus Stadium. The last 10,250 tickets went on sale on Thursday, selling out in just 9 minutes after more than 180,000 people joined the online queue. City of Perth Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis wasn't drawn into tipping this year's premiers, but he says the game will be a boon to the city.
I just love the idea of Melbourne possibly winning in Perth. That last line on the siren, far be it for me to tell JB or BT what they might say, but this idea that Melbourne win in Perth, what a great line. And what it represents what's happening in our country at the moment. It represents the opportunity that we've got, and it may well represent the City of Melbourne and their team, the Melbourne Football Club, breaking that long premiership drought.
The New South Wales and federal governments are collaborating to test a new 7-day home quarantine program for vaccinated travellers. The 4-week trial will involve 175 people, some New South Wales residents, non-Australian residents and Qantas staff. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian said the community's safety is the first priority and that the program will help Australians return home. Prime Minister Scott Morrison also commented on the program and lent his support.
3 Chinese astronauts have successfully landed this week after spending 3 months in a space station. Astronauts Ni Haisheng, Liu Boming and Tang Hongbo touched down in Inner Mongolia. The crew performed 2 spacewalks per day across the 90-day trip, setting a new record for Chinese space travel. The United Nations Security Council has extended its assistance crew in Afghanistan to ensure civilian protection, the protection of human rights and women's rights. There are growing calls from the international community for the new Taliban government to fight terrorism and uphold peace. It's understood that the Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping spoke on the matter during a summit this week.
64 drivers took to the starting line for the Targa West Tarmac rally, racing the clock over 37 stages, with the fastest over 272 kilometres crowned the winner. City of Perth Lord Mayor Basil Zemplis says the race continues to grow the popularity of rally car racing in Western Australia.
One of the things that the rally cars have proven over this last couple of years is great resilience. They didn't miss an event. There was a period there when it looked like they were a little bit shaky, but many of the drivers, it's a hobby. Their own businesses or own private sponsorship is what helps get the teams together. They work normal jobs and in and around that they find the time to work on their cars and work on their craft, and I think that's really admirable. And the more of these sorts of events in our community generally, the better our community is.
You'd have to have unbelievable reflexes to be a rally car driver.
You know, Basil was right. You know, if you look at the race car footage, it feels like a roller coaster, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. How will you fare?
I would crash immediately.
I don't know what my outcome will be. I think we'll both...
Just don't drive with me, Ivan. I'm sure we'll be okay.
We'll end up in the same basket, wouldn't we?
Oh dear, we would.
Oh no. And now here's AMAWA President Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith with his weekly COVID-19 update and commentary regarding the New South Wales situation.
Hi everyone. Big news this weekend was the people that don't like vaccinations rally that happened on Saturday. I find it kind of ironic that the suppression of borders, the suppression of activity and keeping COVID free in WA is exactly the sort of thing that they're actually protesting against, that actually allows them to protest safely without the risk of catching COVID. I kind of think the irony will be lost on them though. The other thing that's happening with them is that we all need to understand that there's an element of society out there that really is either bordering on delusional or is actually delusional. Now, it sort of goes a little bit with the flat earth people, the people that think that the earth's flat. Doesn't matter what you say to them, doesn't matter what evidence you provide them, you cannot convince them that the earth is not flat, and that therefore fulfills delusional. Other people think that solar panels drain the sun, and it doesn't matter what you tell them, doesn't matter what evidence you show them, they still think it. And again, that's delusional. Now, ultimately, there's people out there that are pro-disease. They don't like vaccinations, they're pro-disease. Now, all we need to do with them is look at things in the past like polio. Now, our Governor General walks with a slight limp because he suffered with polio when he was a kid. And there's many people that used to be on iron lungs and ventilators with polio. Modern generation don't even know what polio is. And the reason they don't know what polio is because of vaccination. So again, measles. Prior to the 1960s, 95% of the earth got measles. People don't get measles now. The only people that get measles now are people who are not vaccinated. So the people that don't like vaccines, or as I prefer to call them, the pro-disease group, are effectively delusional. COVID is real. The COVID vaccination does work. It's safe. It's effective. I've had 2 of them. I'm not growing ears or an extra nose or anything else. Now, the statistics are out, and it's pretty clear that the vaccine works. In America, of the people that get admitted to hospital with COVID, 95% of them are not vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you are 29 times more likely to go to hospital if you get COVID. So the message out there is don't listen to these people that are pro-disease. Listen to your trusted doctor, your trusted medical professional. Listen to the science, listen to the evidence, and get your vaccination and protect yourself and your loved ones.
And that's Dr. Mark Duncan-Smith. Here's Leo with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thanks, Harrison. On 6 News breaking news, New South Wales continues to reach new vaccine milestones ahead of anyone else. COVID cases right now remaining relatively steady, but deaths and hospitalisations are expected to rise. Some experts, though, saying that it appears that the curve is flattening. Plus, Victoria's roadmap out of restrictions gives some hope, but others say it is too little too late. The hope now is that cases can remain lower than what's been seen interstate, despite the numbers now at the highest level for over a year. And voluntary assisted dying thrust back into the national spotlight after an overwhelming majority of Queensland MPs voted to pass the bill, pressure mounting on New South Wales, the ACT and the NT to do the same. Our reporter will show you what some of the public is saying on the ground in Brisbane. You can see full details on those stories and plenty more by just heading to our YouTube channel, search 6 News Australia to find us, or our website 6newsau.com. For now though, guys, it is back to you.
Thanks, Leo. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
From Sarah and myself, we wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for stopping by.